Hey there, true believers. Party Popper, welcome back to the channel where we dive deep into the multiverse of Marvel Comics. If you're a hardcore fan like me, grab your favorite issue and settle in, because today we're counting down the top 10 Marvel comics that changed everything. Fearful Face Marvel has been shaping the comic book landscape for over 80 years, pushing boundaries and redefining what it means to be a superhero. From groundbreaking storytelling to universe-altering events, these comics didn't just entertain us, they revolutionized the industry. So, whether you're a seasoned collector with boxes of Silver Age gems or an avid reader who can recite every Earth's designation in the Marvel multiverse, this list is for you. Let's swing right into it. Spider-Web, number 10. The Death of Captain Marvel, 1982. Coming in at number 10, we have The Death of Captain Marvel, published in 1982 as Marvel's first graphic novel. Open book Mar-Vell, the Kree warrior known as Captain Marvel, faces his final battle, not against a supervillain or cosmic entity, but against cancer. The entire narrative is a poignant exploration of mortality, as Mar-Vell reflects on his life, his battles, and his relationships with both allies and enemies. What's truly groundbreaking here is how writer Jim Starlin tackles the subject of death with such maturity and nuance. At a time when comic deaths were often gimmicks or temporary setbacks, Mar-Vell's demise was permanent and deeply affecting. It set a precedent for how graphic novels could handle sophisticated themes, elevating the medium beyond its pulp origins. This wasn't just another superhero story, it was a human story, resonating with readers on a personal level. It showed that even heroes aren't invincible, and sometimes, even they can't escape the inevitable. Number 9. Ultimate Spider-Man, #1, 2000. Swinging into number 9 is Ultimate Spider-Man, number 1, released in 2000. When Marvel launched the Ultimate Universe, the goal was ambitious. Reimagine classic characters in a modern context to attract new readers without the baggage of decades of continuity. Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Bagley delivered with an updated origin story for Peter Parker. This wasn't just a simple retelling. They expanded on Peter's backstory, giving more depth to his relationships, especially with Uncle Ben and Mary Jane. The pacing was more deliberate, the dialogue more natural, and the art style captured the essence of a teenager navigating newfound powers in the 21st century. The impact was huge. It rejuvenated interest in Spider-Man comics and influenced how the character was portrayed in other media, including the MCU's Tom Holland iteration. It also set the tone for the Ultimate Universe as a whole, which would introduce us to characters like Miles Morales down the line. For expert fans, it's fascinating to see how Ultimate Spider-Man bridged the gap between old and new, respecting the legacy while innovating the storytelling approach. Number 8. Civil War, 2006-2007. At number 8, we have the monumental event, Civil War, spanning from 2006 to 2007. Shield High Voltage. This wasn't just a crossover, it was a seismic shift in the Marvel Universe. Written by Mark Millar with art by Steve McNiven, Civil War delved into the repercussions of the Superhuman Registration Act after a tragic incident in Stamford, Connecticut, where a supervillain detonation resulted in hundreds of civilian deaths. The act required all superhumans to register with the government, revealing their identities and acting under official regulation. This split the superhero community right down the middle. Tony Stark led the pro-registration side, advocating accountability, while Steve Rogers headed the anti-registration faction, fighting for personal liberties. The storyline masterfully explored complex themes like security versus freedom, government oversight, and ethical responsibility. It wasn't afraid to ask tough questions, leaving readers pondering where they would stand in such a scenario. For experts, the depth of character development was astounding. Long-standing relationships were torn apart, alliances shifted, and the ending left an indelible mark. Captain America's arrest and subsequent assassination shocked fans worldwide. Civil War didn't just change the status quo. It redefined what superhero stories could tackle, influencing not only comics but also setting the stage for the MCU's adaptation in Captain America, Civil War. Number 7. X-Men, #1, 1963. Mutating into our list at number 7 is the legendary X-Men, number 1 from 1963. DNA created by the iconic duo Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, this issue introduced us to Professor Charles Xavier and his team of young mutants: Cyclops, Marvel Girl, Beast, Angel, and Iceman. Facing off against Magneto, the master of magnetism, the X-Men were established as protectors of a world that both feared and hated them. What set the X-Men apart was how the series addressed social issues through the mutant metaphor. At the height of the civil rights movement, the struggle of mutants paralleled real-world discrimination and prejudice. Professor X and Magneto themselves have often been interpreted as allegories for Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, representing different approaches to achieving equality. For the expert reader, X-Men #1 wasn't just another superhero team-up. It was the start of a complex narrative that would delve into themes of identity, acceptance, and the moral complexities of justice. The seeds planted here would grow into rich story arcs like God Loves, Man Kills, and Days of Future Past, cementing the X-Men as a cornerstone of Marvel's storytelling legacy. Number 6. Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars. #1, 1984. Crashing into the cosmic stage at number 6 is Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars #1 from 1984. Milky Way. This was Marvel's first major crossover event, orchestrated by writer Jim Shooter. The premise: a mysterious cosmic entity known as the Beyonder transports Earth's mightiest heroes and villains to a distant planet called Battleworld to face off in an epic showdown. Secret Wars wasn't just about action, it was a groundbreaking marketing strategy that also tied into a toy line by Mattel. But beyond the merchandise, it changed the way comics approached storytelling on a grand scale. For the first time, readers saw an encompassing event that affected multiple titles and characters across the Marvel Universe. One of the most significant outcomes was Spider-Man obtaining the black symbiote suit, which would eventually lead to the creation of Venom, one of Marvel's most popular anti-heroes. The event also explored complex character dynamics, alliances, and rivalries in a way that hadn't been done before. For aficionados, Secret Wars is a treasure trove of character interactions and pivotal moments. It set the stage for future events like Infinity Gauntlet and Civil War, proving that large-scale crossovers could be both commercially successful and narratively rich. Number 5. The Infinity Gauntlet, 1991. Snapping into the 5th spot is The Infinity Gauntlet, published in 1991. Collision crafted by writer Jim Starlin with art by George Perez and Ron Lim, this epic saga revolves around Thanos, who, obsessed with pleasing Mistress Death, gathers all 6 Infinity Gems to become omnipotent. With a snap of his fingers, he wipes out half of all life in the universe. The Infinity Gauntlet elevated cosmic storytelling to new heights. The series wasn't just a spectacle of power, it delved into themes of deity, mortality, and the psychological complexities of Thanos as a character. This wasn't a villain seeking power for power's sake, his motivations were deeply personal and philosophical. Expert readers appreciate how the series assembled a vast array of Marvel's cosmic and Earth-bound heroes, from Adam Warlock and Doctor Strange to the Silver Surfer and the Avengers. The tactical and strategic approaches the heroes employ to confront a god-like adversary make for intricate plotting. The storyline's impact is undeniable. It laid the foundation for one of the most ambitious arcs in cinematic history, the MCU's Infinity Saga. For many fans, the Infinity Gauntlet remains the gold standard for cosmic comic events. Number 4. Giant-Size X-Men, #1, 1975. Breaking new ground at number 4 is Giant-Size X-Men, #1, released in 1975. Globe written by Len Wein with art by Dave Cockrum, this issue was a game-changer. The original X-Men team had been struggling in sales, and Marvel took a bold step by introducing a new, international roster to reinvigorate the series. This single issue introduced us to now iconic characters like Nightcrawler from Germany, Storm from Kenya, Colossus from the Soviet Union, and, of course, Wolverine from Canada. The story follows this new team as they unite to rescue the original X-Men from the living island Krakoa. The significance lies not just in the fresh characters, but in the diversity they brought to the team. This was one of the earliest examples of a mainstream comic embracing global representation, adding layers of cultural depth to the narrative. For experienced fans, Giant-Size X-Men, #1 marks the birth of the X-Men we know today, leading into Chris Claremont's legendary run. It tackled complex social issues, expanded mutant lore, and transformed the X-Men into one of Marvel's flagship franchises. Number 3. The Amazing Spider-Man, number 121 to 122, 1973. Webbing into the intense number 3 spot is The Night Gwen Stacy Died, from The Amazing Spider-Man, number 121 to 122, published in 1973. Heartbreak penned by Jerry Conway with art by Gil Kane. These issues delivered one of the most shocking moments in comic book history. During a confrontation with the Green Goblin, Gwen Stacy, Peter Parker's girlfriend, is thrown from the George Washington Bridge. In a desperate attempt to save her, Spider-Man shoots a web to catch her. Tragically, the sudden stop causes her neck to snap. This storyline was revolutionary. Up until then, main characters and love interests were largely considered untouchable. Gwen's death shattered that illusion, introducing real stakes and consequences into superhero narratives. For the expert reader, this moment is pivotal in Spider-Man's development. It added a layer of guilt and responsibility that would haunt Peter for years. It also marked a tonal shift in comics, signaling the end of the Silver Age and ushering in more mature, complex storytelling. The ripple effects were profound, influencing countless stories and even echoing in the films. It's a stark reminder that with great power, there must also come great vulnerability. Number 2. Amazing Fantasy, number 15, 1962. Swinging back to where it all began, number 2 is Amazing Fantasy, number 15 from 1962, the first appearance of Spider-Man. Spider-Stan Lee and Steve Ditko introduced the world to Peter Parker, a nerdy teenager bitten by a radioactive spider, granting him extraordinary abilities. But what truly set Spidey apart was his relatability. Peter wasn't a billionaire or an alien. He was a kid dealing with everyday problems: school, money, and family issues. The iconic line, "With great power there must also come great responsibility," debuted here, encapsulating the moral compass that would guide Spider-Man's actions. For expert fans, this issue is the epitome of Marvel's storytelling philosophy. It broke the mold of infallible heroes, showing that protagonists could be flawed, make mistakes, and face real-life challenges. It paved the way for more nuanced characters across the Marvel lineup. The cultural impact is immeasurable. Spider-Man has become one of the most recognizable superheroes worldwide, with this issue being one of the most sought-after collectibles in comic history. Copies have sold for over $1 million at auction. Number 1. Fantastic Four, #1, 1961. And now, the comic that ignited the Marvel Age of Comics takes our number 1 spot. Fantastic Four, number 1, published in 1961. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby crafted a narrative that broke away from the traditional superhero archetype. Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, Sue Storm, Invisible Girl, Johnny Storm, Human Torch, and Ben Grimm, The Thing, weren't just a team. They were a family, complete with all the dynamics, conflicts, and affections that come with it. After being exposed to cosmic rays during a space mission, they gain extraordinary powers and decide to use them not for personal gain, but to explore, discover, and protect humanity from threats like the Mole Man and, later on, Dr. Doom. What made Fantastic Four number 1 revolutionary was its focus on character development and interpersonal relationships. The heroes had flaws, argued amongst themselves, and dealt with personal issues, a stark contrast to the infallible heroes of the time. For the seasoned reader, this issue represents the genesis of the interconnected Marvel Universe. It laid the groundwork for future collaborations, crossovers, and the rich tapestry of stories that would define Marvel Comics for decades. Without Fantastic Four, number 1, the Marvel Universe as we know it might never have come into existence. It's the cornerstone of Marvel's legacy. Well, there you have it, folks. The top 10 Marvel comics that didn't just tell incredible stories but reshaped the very fabric of comic book history. Books read hard from the emotional depths of The Death of Captain Marvel to the universe-spanning implications of Infinity Gauntlet. These issues have left indelible marks on both the Marvel Universe and our hearts. They challenged the norms, tackled complex themes, and brought us characters that are as flawed and fascinating as we are. For those of you who've stuck around till the end, you rock. Guitar, now it's your turn. What comics do you think should have made the list? Are there any groundbreaking story arcs that you feel deserve a shout-out? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's get that discussion rolling. Speech Balloon, if you enjoyed this deep dive, smash that like button, subscribe for more expert-level comic content, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Bell, thanks for joining me on this trip through Marvel's storied past. Until next time, stay uncanny. Sparkles Excelsior, Sparkles.